Jessica's got flowers, and we are in the middle of a cemetery here in Thonotosassa, Florida, which must mean we're here visiting somebody of grim importance.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. A bad luck's always coming my way.
Deep in the middle of nowhere of Thonotosassa, Florida is a cemetery called the Sunset Memorial Gardens. But in the back of the cemetery, there's this, the International Independent Showman Garden of Memories. Basically, a lot of circus folk are buried here. The Showman's Rest is in the very back of the cemetery. There are some very cool tombstones here, but we're going to point them out, some of the most notable ones. But we've come here specifically for a guy by the name of Grady Stiles. You may know him from his stage name, Lobster Boy. Because the Showman's Rest is rather small, it was fairly easy finding the final resting place of Lobster Boy, Grady Stiles. It's not too far from the main path here. Buried right next to his parents, and buried in a plot that also has a marking for his wife, Mary Teresa, which I find very interesting. You will find the Stiles plot, and there he is right there. Grady F. Jr., born 1937, died 1992. The final resting place of Lobster Boy. A lot of people always ask me, how do we find the famous graves that we visit? And it's because of a website called findagrave.com. I use that for everything when we travel. I'm actually going to read an excerpt that they have on their website about Grady Stiles, Lobster Boy, and his wife, Mary Teresa, and the murder of Grady Stiles, because the story, his life surrounding it, it's insane. Absolutely insane. Folk figure, murder victim Grady Stiles, buried right here, was known as Lobster Boy for his deformed hands that looked like claws. He had 4 children. One of them, a boy, and one of them, a girl, had the same deformality, the lobster claws, that he had. When his oldest daughter was engaged, Grady became so enraged that he shot the groom the day before the wedding. And even though he was found guilty of murder, didn't serve any time in prison because it was deemed that the prisons didn't have enough capabilities to deal with somebody of his deformality. So he got away scot-free. Well, he had, I think, 15 years of probation. In November of 1992, after many years of abusing his family, his wife, Mary Teresa, she's not buried here, went to their son-in-law and pleaded with him to help her get away from her husband. He came up with a solution. With the help of a neighbor, Grady Stiles was shot 3 times in the back of his head while he was watching TV in his trailer. It's crazy. The son-in-law was given a life sentence. His wife, Mary, was sentenced to 12 years in prison, and to this day, she says she had to do what she had to do. It was self-defense. She's not buried here. He's buried here. She probably never will be buried here. But the story is insane. Many years ago, I had the privilege of visiting another Showman's Rest. That time it was in Chicago. They had a lot of other circus performers with neat names like Four-Horse Driver and Tightrope Walker. This one here, they have a few like that. So let's go check them out. One of the markers that they have here that's very nice is for James R. Elliott. It says, "My seasons are over, but the show must go on." Looks like there's a couple different shots of him as a young man. Then as he got older, there he is smoking a pipe with some elephants behind him. That's very cool. Here's a marker here for William C. Davis in memory of Kissel Rides. I'm guessing that has something to do with a circus or a sideshow. It says Rides, 1963 to 1997. This one here is very cool. This is the final resting place of Donald Bullet Bullock. Concession shows, acts and games, 1939 to 1985, and it says unlimited operations Also, sad stories and tall tales. This one seems a little unique. It says Anne on the left-hand side, and over there, Margaret Anne. And just underneath it, and if you can see that, it says Princess Anne. Here on the wall we have the final resting place of Danny Royal, died August 13th, 1987. It says the world's greatest fixer. And right next to him, this is probably our favorite memorial marker here. Robert S. Clark, Sam the Candyman. That's really cool. Died in 1994. Also on the wall is the final resting place of Nicholas Lucas, the greatest showman who ever lived, died in 1975. And below it, Junior. And we're guessing they're both stuntmen because of the motorcycle there. We always love coming upon markers where it's a husband and wife buried together. There's the couple right there. It's Frank and June. He was known as Pete, and it says, our parents, our friends, our heroes, truly great show people. And it's a little beautiful little plot. Here's Thomas Oberist. It says too tall, Tom slim. That's interesting. What's this? It says 2. That's odd. Gonna put a flower in there for too tall?
Yeah, I happen to have a single triple one and it matches.
That's very cool. There you go, Slim. In the back of the cemetery, underneath this tree, there was a tombstone that caught our eye of Phillips, Don Phillips, the one and only entertainer at large, America's finest juggler, the world's finest dad and husband too. Also up towards the front of the Showman's Rest is this stone, and it's actually quite nice. There's 3 different people here. I'm not sure if they're actually related, but there's Patsy Pat Fegorello, a Dario Zacchini, and a Cecilia Seal Fegorello. What's neat, it's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like that right there in the corner is a merry-go-round of sorts. This is just one of many Showman Rests in the state of Florida. Well, I mean, there's 3 that I know of, but no doubt there is more. Florida, after all, is the home of the carnival, the sideshow, the fair, the circus, entertainers. It's the home of Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. This is where all the performers would go off season. You just never know what is in your own backyard. Florida is amazing.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.